Hello, students. Today I'm here with all of you to discuss a new chapter, The Visitor, which is an excerpt from the novel The Book Thief. The novel is a historical and a fictional novel by a German born Australian writer, Markus Frank Zusak. So, students, we already know that Markus Zusak is an Australian writer of German origin. He is best known for The Book Thief and The Messenger. And these two novels became international bestsellers. He also won the Margaret A. Edwards Award in 2014. Even a film has been made on the novel The Book Thief. Now, let's try to get a sneak peek into the novel before we begin the chapter, The Visitor. The novel is set in Germany during World War II. Adolf Hitler was the leader of Germany and Nazi Party. He believed that Germans were superior and Jewish was subjected to torture and death. They were imprisoned in concentration camps and led a life full of terror. The other interesting thing about the novel is that death is the narrator in the novel. So the novel begins with Liesel, her brother and mother who were on a train, and her brother died and they get off the train to bury his body. Interestingly, death saw Liesel for the first time in the train when he came to take his brother's soul. Let's try to know about other characters too. Like Liesel's father was inclined towards communism, and Liesel at a very young age lost her father, and then she lost her mother. And then she lost her brother, and later her mother also goes missing. So, at a very young age, she has suffered great loss in her personal life. It was at the graveyard that Liesel steals her first book from one of the grave diggers. She and her mother continue their journey to a town called Molching in Germany, where Liesel is later raised by her foster parents, Hans and Rosa Huberman. When Hans discovers that Liesel doesn't know how to read, he begins teaching her the alphabet, and together they make their way through the book Liesel has stolen from the gravedigger. Liesel gradually settles down with her foster parents, Hans and Rosa. And in May 1942, at the time of Second World War, the NSDAP men or Nazi Party men are inspecting the basements of houses in Germantown to see if they were suitable to serve as air raid shelters. So these Nazi Party men, they move up and down the Himmel Street while Liesel is busy playing soccer. Liesel gets alert once she realizes that they would be raiding their basement as well. She wants to warn her parents about the inspections, as a Jew boy named Max was hiding in their basement. She runs into another soccer player deliberately. So she hatches a plan, and she collided with another soccer player deliberately and injures her knee. In this way, she has an excuse to go back home without arousing anyone's suspicion. Before the party man reached their house, Hans told Max, the Jew man who was hiding in the basement, what was happening. After inspection, the Nazi officer said that the basement wasn't suitable for shelter and merrily went his way. Max, however, apologized for putting the family in such great danger, because if Max was found, then everyone's life would be in danger. Hans, Rosa, Liesel, as well as Max. So he was also Max was also worried about them, and they too were worried about Max's safety. Later war has its effect on Molching, and there was a shortage of food and work. Max too has to leave Liesel's house as Hans was under scrutiny, as he has helped a Jew by giving him bread from his paint can. Literacy is another theme apart from war and ethnic cleansing, as it is shown that Liesel could find solace in reading. So Liesel is in awe when she sees the library of Mayor's wife, and she would often steal her books. Liesel used to go to Mayor's house for delivering laundry, and she had affinity towards book, and she really liked her library, and she would all often go to the library and steal books from there. And moreover, Mayor's wife, she knew about Liesel stealing books from library, and death, one of the narrator in the novel, has also said that Mayor's wife used to keep window of the library open, in hope that Liesel would come to steal her books. Later, Mayor's wife gives Liesel a blank notebook so that she can begin writing her own story. One night, while Liesel is in the basement editing her book, her neighborhood is bombed. Her foster parents, Hans, Rosa, and her best friend Rudy, and the rest of the neighbors are killed. When the workers take her away, she leaves behind her finished book called The Book Thief. So Liesel has completed her book named The Book Thief, and that particular book was rescued by Death. Death has come there in the basement to take soul of the pilot who was dead in the bombing. So he sees the book and he rescues the book. It was for the second time when Death has seen Liesel. The first time he has seen when he has come to take her brother's soul, and the second time when he has come to take the pilot's soul after the bombing. So later on, after the liberation of the concentration camps, Max returns to Molching and finds Liesel. Liesel later on moves to Australia, where she has a family and lives to an old age. Death finally comes to take her soul. He shows her the book she wrote so many years before. So the third time Death comes Death sees Liesel is when he comes to take her soul, and he shows her book, The Book Thief, which he has rescued from the basement. So now we would discuss the chapter, the plot and story curve of the chapter The Visitor in detail. So this story is set in Germany during World War II, that is between 1939 and 1945. Adolf Hitler, the leader of Germany and the Nazi party, believed that Germans were superior to everybody and born to rule over the world. Hitler had a special hatred for Jewish people. He considered them less than human and did not think they had a right to freedom or life. He arrested all Jewish people in Germany and imprisoned them in concentration camps where they were often tortured and killed. Liesel is a 12-year-old German girl. She and her parents, Hans and Rosa Huberman, do not agree with Hitler's cruel policies. They are hiding a Jewish man called Max Vandenberg in their basement and are determined to keep him safe. This is very dangerous because if they are discovered, all of them will be arrested and put to death. So this is how the chapter begins. The background of the story has been given in the beginning, and characters have been introduced. Children in the Himmel street were playing soccer, and Liesel too was among the players. She saw Nazi men checking the basement of each house as they needed air raid shelter. Liesel needs to go home quickly to warn her parents without arousing any suspicion, and she hatched a plan. So what was her plan? She wanted to go home, and for that she had hatched a plan. Her plan was that she would collide with one of her co-players, and so she collided with one of her co-players, and she got hurt in knees. And then her friend, her friend Rudy, he went to his home and called his father. His father came to the street, and he took his daughter Liesel with him. So she reaches her home. She reaches her home without arousing anyone's suspicion and in a very natural way. Liesel then reaches home and tells her parents about the Nazi men inspecting the basement of all houses. And soon they heard a knock at the door. The visitor did not look like a typical Nazi man, as they have an image of being serious. However, the party man who visited Liesel's house was a jovial person and called Liesel as the football maniac. He later went down the basement to inspect whether it was suitable for air-based shelter or not. Here, the suspense or tension is at the peak. If Max was found, everyone's life would come to an end. Tension eases as the party member finds their basement very shallow and unsuitable, and the Habermans take a sigh of relief. The story ends with Max and the Huberman family being safe and happy, for they were alive. Max apologized to them for making them go through all that stress, tension, and worry. So this chapter portrays terror and despair behind the ordinary life. Everyone in the Huberman family appeared to be acting normal and going about their daily routine. However, in reality, each one of them were in great fear, and they were left with no other option but to conceal their fears and act normal. So now let's discuss about few central characters in the story. The protagonist is obviously Liesel Meminger. Protagonist believes that words are very powerful, and it was actually literacy that made her very powerful. She is a German girl and she lives with her foster parents. Her foster father, Hans Huberman, and her mother, Rosa Huberman. Max Vandenberg is another important character in the story, who is hiding in Liesel's house. He hides in the basement of the house, and he's a Jew boy, and hiding him in their house could bring trouble for them, but still they help this German boy. Another character which is there in the story is Rudi Steiner. He is Liesel's friend and they play football together. The most important character of the story is Liesel. She is a 12-year-old German girl, and in the story she has been portrayed as an alert girl with great presence of mind, because when she was playing with her friends she could sense the danger. When she saw Nazi party members inspecting the basement of the house, she was really afraid and she wanted to warn her parents, but she did not show her fears and anxiety to anybody, but she continued playing. And while playing she devised a plan too. She planned that she would get hurt and then she would go home. In this way she would not draw anyone's suspicion. So she is definitely an alert girl with great intelligence and a kind-hearted girl too, because she wanted to keep Max, the Jew boy who was hiding in her house, safe. So Liesel is a kind-hearted and bold girl. She acts as a protector of her family and Max. She deeply loves her foster family. She maintains the secret and keeps suspicion at bay. So she maintains the secret. She keeps the secret well that there was a Jew boy, Max, hiding in her house. She was an active girl. She played football with boys in the street and was called the maniac football player by the Nazi party man who visited her house to inspect the basement. So she's also a book lover, and it was her foster father Hans who has introduced her to the joy of reading, and she loved books. Since she loved books, she used to steal them from the mayor's house. She had also, in novel, it has been mentioned that she has also rescued a book from bonfire. Like to celebrate, Hitler's birthday, books were put to fire. There were bonfire made out of books. Many books were burnt, and from that bonfire she has rescued the book. So you can imagine imagine her love for books. So we already know that she deeply loves her family and friends. Liesel loves her foster parents, Hans Huberman and Rosa Huberman. She wants to see them safe and happy. She is interested in sports. She plays football with her friends in the Himmel Street. She is an intelligent girl with great presence of mind. Though she was playing with her friends, she was thinking regarding a plan to warn her parents about Nazi men inspecting basement of houses. She loves books and understands the language can be both a dangerous weapon of control, as with Nazi propaganda, and a gift that enables her to broaden her view of the world. Through the books she steals, reads, and writes, she evolves from a powerless character to a powerful character who deeply empathizes with the voiceless. So this story has many heart-touching revelations. This excerpt from a war story based on the plight of the Jews during the Second World War brings out the fear in which Jews lived during those times. It makes us sympathetic towards the suffering community and the horrors they endured. It helps us to admire the courage of some Germans like Liesel and her foster parents Hans and Rosa, who risked their own lives to help the Jews. And the chapter also make us realize how wrong we are to discriminate against people based on class, caste, ethnicity, or race, and how important it is for us to respect them as we respect ourselves. In this chapter, there are many contrasts, and these contrasts are at different levels too. These contrasts also, introduce suspense, and they heighten suspense to, for example, contrast between two worlds, the political and the personal. The political or ethnic hatred from the historical context of the Second World War is contrasted with the compassion at a personal level. As in this chapter, it is shown that the entire political scenario is against Jews, and yet a German family risked themselves by helping a Jew. Liesel is seen as there is contrast at other levels also in the chapter. Liesel is seen as enjoying a game of football on the street with her friends, while she is really worried about a Jew hiding in her place. Liesel and Klaus, one of her co-players, seem to crash into each other by accident during the game. But Liesel deliberately does this so that she can go home to inform her parents about the impending danger without arousing curiosity. The Hubermans seem to go about their usual routine calmly as the party man goes down to check their basement. Liesel's father tries to be as normal as possible. He even shouts at Liesel to get on with her lessons, pretending to carry on with their usual routine. So this is how contrast has heightened suspense in the chapter. There are many themes that run parallel in the story. The first one being prejudice. Jews were considered to be inferior. In the novel, Hans was labeled as a Jew lover because he helped a Jew by giving him a piece of bread, and it earned him hatred of many Germans. They even spit at him because he was labeled as Jew lover, and that was against the emotions of majority of the people. So people really hated Jews and the people who helped Jew. So there was the emotion of the majority of people were against Jews. So this was the prejudice at one level that has been shown in the book. The chapter Visitor shows this prejudice against Jews and how they led their lives in terror after Hitler's rise. The next theme is destruction, war, and chaos. So we all know that there was a lot of destruction during World War II, and it took a long period for country and people to revive it. In the novel, Death was shown super busy, and he has to work overtime as there were many deaths. Again, the theme of humanity is there, because when we look at the character of Hans, Rosa, Liesel, these people give us a ray of hope, and tell us that humanity is still alive. So we may say a ray of hope was there in the form of a few people who looked at a person as a human being and not of a particular race. Literacy can also be considered as one of the theme, as the novel shows how literacy empowers a girl, and she through her readings is raised as a critical thinking human being, and instead of following a mass emotion, she has a belief of her own. So these themes, these were few important themes which would give you an insight into the chapter Visitor. Um, and we may also have a look at this photograph. This photograph is of Kashmiri Pandits, and they are seen, holding many placards. So these people were actually forced to leave their homeland, their houses, and they are still living in our country as refugees. Because in Kashmir also there was ethnic cleansing, and people were forced, and Kashmiri Pandits were forced to leave their houses. So through this, you may relate this chapter in Indian context too. So the most important thing that this chapter, The Visitor, tells us is that we should be humans first. We should look at a person not as someone who belongs to a particular race, origin, caste, religion. We have to respect other persons as a human being, as an individual human being. So if we have that mutual respect for each human beings, and all of us live in dignity, this world would surely be a better place to live in. Thank you, children.